I'm Bob Mack, and I'm here today interviewing legendary coach Joe Cipp from Belport High School. Coach, thanks for having me in your house.
Thanks for asking.
I'm sure you've been interviewed by tons and tons of people, in fact, probably hundreds over your career. But today, it's sort of sentimental and special for me. You had hired me as an athletic director in the Belport South Country School District, and I got to learn firsthand all about the legend, and I know you're sort of shy about it, but the legend of Joe Cipp Field, and Belport football. Take me through the beginning, where it started, how and sort of how you carried this with you for your entire life.
Well, to get here was an odd thing because I ended up taking a job as a physical education teacher in Sable, and they didn't have an opening for me as a coach, especially a coach that didn't even know who I was. But Bayport hired me as a coach, which is sort of odd because that's a big rivalry, even though Sable would.
And Sable back then was real big time football program.
So I coached with my former coach in high school, Kerry Lawler, at Bayport for a couple of years.
And Coach Lawler, Sachem?
Yes, when I was at Sachem High School. Then Ed Madden from Sable, who was the head coach, decided he wanted to get a position for me, and I ended up becoming defensive coordinator at the school that I was teaching at, which was Sable, which was better for me. So I had a great mentor. Ed Madden was one of the top coaches in the country,
sure.
And as far as I'm concerned, and he had a great mind for offensive football, so that helped me because I was a defensive player, and I was just learning with him. And he decided to retire, and he became a vice president of Merrill Lynch, bright guy, and I was asked to become the head football coach at Sable. At the same time, Belport started a football program. They were in JV, and they were starting, I think they had one more year of JV. And I lived here in the district.
In this house?
In this house, yes. And I said, you know what? If this position's open, maybe I should apply for that because our kids will probably go to the school here. And I ended up interviewing for a job and being offered the job. And I remember Dr. Jones, who was a 6'5" guy. He was a superintendent at Sable. You know, he said, "You're going to go to Belport rather than stay here, where Sable's an established program." And I go, "Well, my kids are going to go to Belport, and if somebody's going to screw it up, let it be me." You know, so that was a big deal because I had tenure at that time at Sable, and I came here and started a program, and it really worked out because we used to play them in non-league games, and we did a couple of times give them their only loss, and then they dropped us because we beat them. I mean, they beat us at the beginning 3 or 4 years in a row, but you know, it was unique playing them, and again another learning experience for me. And then we started beating them, and we started to have problems getting, you know, teams to play us. In fact, we got dropped on Sable when we played Union Endicott.
So before you go there, because that's something I do want to talk about.
Okay.
I just want to mention, when you're talking to a legend, right? Chris Vaccaro wrote a book about Joe Cipp and the Belport football program. And some of the things that we're talking about today are in this book. And when I first got to Belport, I sort of read through the book, A Proud Tradition, Pride, Spirit, and Heart. Some of those things that are in here, it talks about your original coaching staff. Talk to me a little bit about, you learned football at Sachem, and then you had a college career. You sort of had some coaching experience in college, if I understand correctly, and you may have even met one of your future staff members in college.
Yes,
that
I did.
The Four Horsemen kind of part of Belport. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. Getting a staff together obviously is very important to me. I'm a hands-on coach, and I want my staff to be hands-on also. They're not just figureheads. They work. They do a good job. And you're right. I was a graduate assistant at the University of Virginia, so I got to know Roy Still, being that he was from Patchogue. And I hired him. I hired Craig Erickson, whose father was a fantastic coach at Bayshore, a legend in his own right. And then I hired John Conquest, who was here as a school community coordinator, and he was able to put together, I thought all of us put together a staff that sort of touched every kid. You know, the things I would miss on a kid, the other coach might pick it up on and be able to deal with it. So I was very fortunate to put together a great staff, and it obviously helped us as a not only as a team, but as a winning team, becoming winners.
And in the book, it talks a lot about family. And when I say family, some people might think of you, your wife Laura, and your two boys, and that's just one part of the conversation. But Bellport football, you always talk about family at the breakfast, and you talk about it with the boys on the team and even the parents. Talk to me a little bit about that family atmosphere and how and why it became so important to you.
Well, all our kids are treated as far as I'm concerned, like my kids. In fact, my kids who played for me probably say they were treated better than my kids. I think that if people have more than just being about themselves, and it's about a part of a family or a team, and that love for each other, I think that makes them strive to be better. Having parental support, and it's hard, to get parental support because all the parents are really out for their kids. Mm-hmm. But they have to be convinced, and I was fortunate enough to have my best friends become from people that kids played for me. Their parents became my best friends, and they still are. And so it was a family affair. They were really into it. Many of my players had sisters, and they would become stat girls, or they'd be cheerleaders. So, they were part of the integral parts of the pieces to the family. So, yeah, I think that if I can have a parent saying to the kid, hey, you got to work hard and do what Cipp says and the rest of the coaches, it's better than having a parent saying, nah, don't do what they say. They don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, I think that being a family and being together is going to get the most out of the product, which would be the kids playing.
So, Coach, you played several sports in high school. In fact, at Bellport, you coached other sports early on in your career. When did you know football was you? Like football, or did you ever know that football was going to identify you and be sort of your legacy in life?
In high school. And before that, I even wanted to be sort of a coach. I was the guy that always put together the teams. When you had your street ball, whatever you're doing, in all sports. And so I sort of knew I was going to be a coach. I didn't know where to really be involved. I wanted to be involved in sports, at the beginning. And then after playing 3 sports, of which I had a tremendous experience at Cipp High School, even met my wife there. So everything was wonderful and great just playing for Cipp. But I saw again, because we had a group of kids that were really tight together, that being together and caring more than normal people might do makes you better. So I don't know, I thought football was one of those sports. It's such a team sport. You have 11 people that really have to be on the same page. Maybe that attracted me, but I liked all the sports. I wrestled and I played lacrosse too.
Well, there's philosophers that say everybody sort of needs to belong to something, and it sounds like while you belong to your own family unit, right? Joe Cipp was your father. You're Joe Cipp Jr. We have a Joe Cipp III, and that's super important. But that you found in football almost an extended family and a greater cause. Being with those guys from Cipp, you had a brotherhood that it seemed to resonate with you, something you wanted to continue to do, which you've done and you created for this community, for really all these young men over the years, and sort of for your family. Between you and your 2 boys, you've probably reached out to 10, 20,000 different kids over the years that became part of something special.
I would like to think it's special. There's always ups and downs in anything that you do, and especially if you're dedicated to it. But even the family now. I mean, the coaches that coach presently right now in varsity are either from Belport, who played for me, or from Longwood, who played for one of my sons. So, it still has those same things. And as you know, at the end of the game, we still come to this room, and the guys, all the coaches come, parents come, the kids come, and so many kids have played, my grandsons and stuff that played in the backyard, where the guys all sit here and watch the college football. The women usually go back there and probably criticize the guys. It's just a family affair, I think. I really look forward to those things,
So the after every game, win or lose, everybody comes back to Coach Cipp's house. The coaches, a fair amount of the parents, an adult gathering to celebrate the win or to talk about the loss and just be together as a family. When I first started working with you, I read a book by some guy, or it was about some guy named Vince Lombardi, and he actually had the same tradition. Did you know that, or was it just something that you did, and that maybe somebody, and I don't know if you looked up to Vince Lombardi at all, but obviously a legendary coach in his own right. I know we talked about that one time, that he did that. Did you know about that tradition?
I didn't when I did it. I really got it from Ed Madden. Ed Madden did it at Sable. He basically just had the coaches. He didn't have too many parents come by. I opened up to the parents. I thought about only if we win, but you know what? That's not a fair thing to, for the coaches or the family. They work hard all week. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. I found out about it later. Maybe it was when you told me. And am I a fan of Vince Lombardi? Absolutely. In my, my office in Belport, I had a big book about Vince Lombardi, and that thing right over there is from Broadway. When they had Lombardi, and the guy knew that I was there for some reason. I don't know who told him. It wasn't anybody I know who told him, who was the star. And he invited us backstage to meet me and my two sons, who at that time were coaching. And it was a pretty cool thing. But yeah, I'm a fan of Vince Lombardi.
Let's talk a little bit about, and I know, again, people who don't know who Joe Cipp really is, and I didn't know who Joe Cipp was, but I knew the name. I knew, obviously, some of the records. I knew the field was named after you. But until I started working in the South Country School District, I didn't really know you. And I think that most people don't know you. They know of you. They know about you. They synonymous Belport football and Joe Cipp, as it should be. Just talk a little bit about your accomplishments over the years. Because I think what people don't know is that, and they're probably learning today, it's about the love of the game, the love of the kids, about making those boys into men, right? And what they do know is about the accomplishments, the accolades. Tell me some of the accolades that happened during your tenure in this program.
I don't really like talking about myself, but the program itself,
What did they do?
the program is a real program. Okay, it's not a fake program. It's like people who talk a lot about things, and then I always say, well, put your money where your mouth is. If you really want to do it, support something or whatever it is in your life, you have to feel it and be real, and that's what I think our program is. I really believe that the kids feel that it's important to them. I hope they do. Yes, there's other things, no question about it, but when you're out in the football field, and especially doing games, those 48 minutes has to be dedicated to the accomplishment of being the best that you possibly can be. You can't shortchange yourself. You can't go half speed. That's why football's only played for 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds. You can't be not going for those 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds, especially if the guy that you cross is doing that. So it has to be an intense thing. It has to be real. It has to be backed up with caring, love, all the things that a family, as far as I'm concerned, those attributes of a family exist, and that's what you try to bring to the program. And you really do end up spending probably more time as a coach with the kids, being that you're teaching 8 hours a day. You see them in the classroom and stuff, or at least in the halls. So there's a tremendous bond that you have with your kids, and you have to use that bond as an effective tool to be positive about what you're trying to accomplish in life. It's very regimented, our program. It used to be yes sir, no sir, and the kids were always respectful to the teachers, and they weren't, I was told, and if I was told, they were in trouble.
Yeah, I'm sure a great asset to the building for the classroom behavior, the hallway behavior, and again, making young boys into men and holding them accountable. And I think, again, I give Chris Vaccaro a lot of credit, because what Chris wrote in his book really touched upon, to me, everything that you stand for, everything that the program stands for, and all the values that came out of it. I'm going to go back, though. Forget about your accomplishments. The program. Did the program have Hanson Award winners?
Yeah, we had a few.
3, 4?
Probably close to the top of the mountain of people. Obviously, it's not because of my good looks. I have great players that we win.
How about Long Island championships?
I think right now in Suffolk County we have the most. Nobody has more.
And do you have an idea? I know that they keep a book, so I know it's not something that you might not know off the top of your head. But do you have an idea of how many Division I college football players you've had over the career?
We've had a lot.
A lot.
A real lot. I mean, I have articles, I think one's over there somewhere, where we had 4 or 5 kids play in the bowl games when they only had very few bowl games, and we had kids.
Yeah, it wasn't 32 back in the day.
Right, they played in the Rose Bowl, the Citrus Bowl. I mean, all the major bowls that you can count. I think we've had people play. And I remember Sal Champion, a great coach of East Islip, one time telling me, he goes, I turn on the TV during the college bowl day, basically New Year's and stuff, and he goes, you have not 1 but 2 kids playing against each other, and that was true when Illinois played against Iowa. I mean, pretty good stuff. I mean,
yeah. You are in, let's see, Suffolk County Hall of Fame, the National Football Hall of Fame, the New York State Coaches Hall of Fame. By the way, when you were inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame, you were there with another Long Island guy, right? What was his name?
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown. If that rings a bell to anybody out there, maybe the greatest running back of all time in the NFL. What was that like?
Well, first of all, Jim Brown and his wife were unbelievable. They sat right next to us, and the wife bonded with our friends who were there, and my family and my wife. Very, very, very positive person, great person. And Jim Brown, they don't know the other side of him either. He wasn't just a great football player. He did so many things for the underprivileged and people who had no homes, the homeless, kids especially. He invited them to his house and sort of adopted them, for a time. It was just a great experience.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
I know, and I don't want to ruin your train of thought, but right away when you say things like that about other people, I sort of, did my homework, and I know that you did the same thing. You've had many a player who needed a bed, who needed food, and let's talk a little bit about that. I don't think everybody truly understands a Bellport football player coming away with meals 3 or 4 times a week during football season, which some of those guys need. Not everybody has a household where they're getting that. They're getting the Ringer shirt. They're getting the red shorts. They're getting championship shirts. They're getting things through the program, by the way, not through the athletic department, but through the program that give them things that they may not have. Where does that sit with you? I mean, it's such to me, a big part of your program.
Well, again, it's part of being real. Part of being real is you don't forget them when the season's over. Mostly all coaches do that. I mean, having something like that is something that most people do, and obviously Bellport is still doing it. They take care of the kids. We have our breakfast. We have a breakfast every morning. The pandemic sort of messed that up a little bit, but we had it outside. We got it catered because the parents make the breakfast too, which is a little unusual. It's not just an egg sandwich. They go in there at 6, 7 in the morning and prepare and make the breakfast. We're back to normal now. We just had our first breakfast this past week. Went without a hitch. Cheerleaders are back. Stat girls are back. Nice to have the pandemic behind us.
What was your last year coaching?
2010.
2010. So now it is 2022. And when you go to the breakfast, Coach Cipp still sits at the head of the table. He gives a blessing to the team, the players, the parents, the coaching staff. It's just one of so many traditions. And rather than talk about Coach Cipp, let's talk about some of the decor at the breakfast. There's signs that are hanging up that they look older than me. So talk to me a little bit about the breakfast, the signs, and what all that tradition is about.
Well, again, and if it's a family atmosphere, tradition means a lot in a lot of families. Tradition means a lot about Bellport football, as far as we're concerned. Not that every team is going to be a champion, but every team can work hard. The 6 inches between your ears are the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned. You can control that. You control the way you act in school. You control the way you act with people. You can control the way you act with your teammates. Even when things go wrong. So again, we're trying to teach all that. Now, the family atmosphere of the breakfast, like I said, they're coming at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning to make the breakfast. That's what is that doing? That's having the family now get involved. The parents of the kids. And like I said, it's not just the team. When you read through that book, Chris Vaccaro compared us to teams like in Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
basically Texas football, because our cheerleaders, our stat girls, they come and decorate the locker room before every game. I don't know. It's just a family, and the breakfast. I remember Jamie Fabian, who's the head coach now, is doing a great job.
Jamie is.
Right. He said to me, he goes, "This is like one of the best things that we do, because some of our kids, maybe not now anymore, but some of the kids years ago didn't have food. They wouldn't have something to eat. It's better now because people help everybody." Which the pandemic sort of helped. If there's anything that was worthwhile out of that pandemic, people started helping people more. It's just something that, to me, it's just big. The breakfast, and probably at the end, if you win a championship, the things that the community does for our kids.
And every time you mention something to that effect, I think of something else about Bellport. And while you have some grounds guys, they line the football field. They make the football field. You have from the goal line to the 50 to the other goal line. That's what they do. But when you get to the game, there's a giant bee in the middle of the field that must take hours to paint. There's paw prints on the field. There's pride, spirit, heart written on the field. That's not the grounds guys. Who's doing that work?
Well, under the guidance of a parent, a former parent, because his kid has played for us for years, Charlie Francomano.
Right?
Yep, he's the one who coordinates it, and parents come and they do those things. Most schools do it through their grounds crew. I think that he does it because he wants to do it, and the grounds crew will help him. If they want it, but they like their little group, and he likes to do the things. He'll put it when it's around Cancer Awareness Week or a month. He'll have the ribbons, on it, and it's not just for the team. It's for the whole community. So it's a community effort for the community. And the kids appreciate it.
And so you have that on the field. You have, and we'll shout out to Charlie Francomano, who continues to do it, and he does it because he just loves the program, I guess, and maybe the program. His son played.
Yes.
And so he's appreciative of what,
brother too.
And his brother. Mm-hmm. So what they gave what the program gave to his family, he's continuing to give back. And he basically shows every week how much it means to him, which is sort of, it's so special.
He talked about Charlie. Charlie was a Marine, and he had a big family, and as I said, his brother played for me. And we had bed checks on Friday. I don't know if they still do it, but we did. And sometimes we'd call them twice to make sure that no one's covering for them. And if they're sleeping, we tell them, wake them up. We want to say goodnight to them. So Charlie said that he is coming back from the Marines on leave, and he answers the phone. And I don't know if it was me or one of my coaches, and he goes, who the heck is this? Checking on my brother, and said, well, either you get him or he doesn't play. So I goes, well, he's in his bedroom. He goes, good, we'll give him the phone. And that time you had to have maybe the phone go to the phone. Yeah, I said, so we can say goodnight to him and wish him luck and tell him get good sleep and get ready for tomorrow. So that's basically how he met me, through a phone.
Through that.
So, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, and you sort of had the same discipline that he had in the Marine Corps,
Right.
So that can't be wrong.
Right. Coach, let me jump in for a second. Just, we're doing this loosely where I'm sort of a producer in the background. Once in a while, a thought will pop into my head, so we'll probably make it in the show, or you can paraphrase the thing.
Yeah, Tony Guma in the back.
Yeah, just on a coach, because we're all coaches in here. I coached for years and still do. High school varsity level is an interesting sport to coach on any sport, right? Where do you draw the line between amateur athletics and then when you go in, you've had pros and very high level, and you have a lot of wins under your belt, so winning is very important to the program, but we still are coaching with kids. So, that old cliche, it's not you're not winning the game or whatever, it's how you play the game and stuff like that. Where do you personally as a coach stand on how serious winning is, and back to like youth things where it's somewhat not about winning? How do you teach winning but also keep it, amateur versus when you're getting millions of dollars to play each game? Your thoughts on that?
Well, people should be playing for the love of the game, whether you're an amateur or you're a professional. The good ones do. Tom Brady, does he need any money? Okay, he plays for the love of the game. And he's not the only one, there's many of them. The idea is to get the kid to be the best that he can be, whether he's on the football field, whether he's just representing the football team, where he's representing his house, where he's representing his family, where he's representing anything. That's the goal, is to make the kid get that feeling that whatever he does in life, he does it to the best of his ability. Now, someone told me a long time ago that sports were the last bastion of reality in the world because they keep score. So there are scores, so you're going to learn what winning and losing is all about. It's not just about winning, just like it's not just about losing. But there is a goal that people should have, whether they're playing amateur or whether they're playing professional.
When do you think it, like, let's use wrestling. I'm a wrestling coach. Coach was, you've been around the sport and coach. So, use that as an example. So like on a middle school level, they don't keep team score. And then as you move to JV, very similar. When for you does it change where it becomes, which is obviously an obvious question, a varsity level thing, but that transition, talk a little bit about when you start to get really serious with guys, learning what it is to win and that fine line there.
Well, I think the country sort of provides that because they keep score and records in the varsity level. So I guess that's the time now that you got to start thinking a little bit about being the best that you can be. Try to shoot for 500. I mean, our goal, our number one goal, there's a bunch of goals before we get to the winning part. Did we out-hit them? We want to out-hit people. We don't make mistakes, okay? There's 5 or 6 things that we emphasize before we even get onto the field that we're trying to accomplish. So those things can still be accomplished without winning the game. If a team is better than you, you lose. And that's okay. If a team isn't better than you and you lose, that's really not acceptable. and that's something that you have to work on. And that's, again, you know, might be the 6 inches between the ears. Most likely that's what it is, if that's what actually happened. So it's, you know, I've had teams, that's one of the reasons why I don't compare my teams. You know, like people ask me which team was your best team and who was your best players, because you could have a 500 team that really were really playing over their ability. And why would I say that they're not in the equation, even when you have a team that's 10-1 or something like that? They still accomplish a tremendous amount. I mean, we have had a lot of success in Bellport, and we didn't have championships every year. I think maybe we're averaging one every other year. So that's good. I mean, but the teams that didn't have a winning season or didn't win a championship, they're just as close to me as the teams that did. So
now, let me jump in on that, because that being said, the stakes are a little different when you get to the varsity level.
Yes.
When you're in middle school and you're learning the game, and I'm sure as the head coach, your philosophy was, let's get as many kids out for the middle school team as possible.
Yes.
Don't care what your record is. We want kids playing football.
Yep.
So we get them. And then on the JV level, let's hone in on their skill set. Let's start putting guys in positions where we're getting to know, from a varsity point of view, this guy might be our next quarterback, this guy might be our next running back, whatever the case may be. Don't really care what your record is, but making sure you're preparing those kids properly. Once you get to the varsity level, and going back to what Coach Guma was asking about, winning, while all the things you said, I totally agree with, and I think anybody listening to the show or watching the show would agree with, at the end of the day, there's some kids that are on a path for not only a college scholarship, but maybe just an opportunity to extend their education because they're a football player and getting into a college. Those sort of things matter. And winning sort of helps those things. And losing can get in the way of those things. So the stakes change, right? I mean, they just have to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Does that make sense?
absolutely. The world loves a winner. I mean, you know,
American spirit.
right. I mean, when you have a team that does well, they draw more people. So they'll put the games that are competitive at a higher level on TV, and you know, that's the way it is now. It's a little bit different now because they want to feel bad for the people who aren't winners. You don't have to feel bad for the people who aren't winners. I mean, they're competing. You know, the competition is where it's at. I mean, you know, you talk about Vince Lombardi. You know, one of his favorite sayings is that, you know, you have to compete. And, you know, Teddy Roosevelt, the same thing. You know, the man in the arena. I think that's what it is. I have that on my wall. It's real. I mean, the competition, and we should never discourage that. I mean, God forbid we ever get into a combative situation in our country. We better have people who are going to go out there who are going to be, you know, wanting to win. So it is what it is.
We don't get to a point where even on the professional level, they don't keep score anymore.
No, I know.
But
I know.
It's that, in some ways, you know, you're almost headed to that degree where, you know, it's like, does it really matter? Like,
yeah. Well, listen, I'm a firm believer in, which I think the Bellport program really echoed. I'm a firm believer in if your players know you love them, they know you care about them, and you're working every day to make them the best player that they can be, then, you know, that's all you can ask for. And if you're good at what you do, the winning will come. And it's always the goal. And you always want your kids to want to win. And just like you want your children to want to do the best they can do in school, to compete for a job, to go out there and show their boss, I'm the guy for this job.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's about winning.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and can we say that in this day and age? It's okay to be about winning.
I don't know.
If we're doing it with love and we're doing it with honesty, right? And like, you know, going back to the beginning of the interview, you talked about the program being real. And I love that. I love that what it stands for is real. There's nothing fake about it. There's no All right, Joseph, pretending to do this for the community. You've been all about that, all about this community, all about the kids, all about just creating better lives for kids each and every year. And still, to this day, I'm always just passionate when I watch you speak to the kids, because you speak to them the same way you spoke to them years ago. And you have a group of coaches who were mentored by you and by your sons that are running the program with all the same values. And when you come in, it's still the same. To me, it hasn't changed. Again, I haven't been part of it forever, but I think I've learned enough to know about it, that fabric is still there. And that's exciting, because it means you're still making a huge difference in the lives of kids today. Give the audience an idea, if you don't mind, of, right, there's a stereotype with football, right? Big brute, loudmouth, strong, tough guys. And people who don't truly know the intricacies of the game. What would you say, can you give them a look at the work that goes into preparing a football team? And let's start, I think, in the model that you created, it was sort of started in January for the following year, right? If we finish, you figure the goal was always trying to finish up around Thanksgiving, because that's when the Long Island Championship was. And then you'd sort of give the coaches and the players a little bit of time to breathe and to focus on other things, take some time away from it. And then it was back to work in January. Is that about right?
Yeah, well, with me, it was really all year. I mean, the recruiting is a whole different ball game. You've been involved in that,
Sure.
Not only with your family, but also with the kids in Bellport. When guys would come in and recruit, and you better be prepared for them too. It's a little easier now. You don't have the Super 8 films that you had to splice that made me blind, because your thing was always blinking like that. So I think it made me blind from doing that, blinking with the thing so I could see them. But it starts there. And again, what you were just talking about, you can actually get help and get maybe even just an acceptance into a school that you wouldn't have a chance to get in if you can do something other than academics.
Right.
And it's not just athletics. They do the same thing for music people. They do the same thing for people who can sing. They do the same thing for other skills that the schools want, to get people to go to their school. That's not unusual. Okay, so when a person who's an athlete gets it, all of a sudden people go, oh well, he's getting a break. Well, there are a lot of kids who get breaks to go to school. Sure. Because they have skills. So why not take advantage of that? So you got to be sure that you organize when these people come in, and like I said, the huddle films now have made that a wonderful thing, because now they splice together all of the best
highlights.
plays of the kids and highlights, even though they want to see usually game film too. But by putting the highlights together, you find out which game he actually had the best game, So, and that takes hours. That used to take a tremendous amount of my time, even with the VCRs.
See, I mean, you went Super 8. So this is, we're talking about film, right? We're talking about, we're really talking about the recruiting process of film. But let's go back to, you would coach a football game. Then, and the game was filmed on Super 8. Then you would exchange Super 8 with the team you were playing the following week, and you'd watch their.
First, you got to get it developed. At that time, a guy used to come, Sam Gartell from Nassau County, and you had to meet him right after the game so he can get it back to Nassau County to get the film done, and then they would deliver it the next day in the morning at 6 a.m. So think about that. I mean, that's running around what Huddle has done. That's a whole different ball game.
Phones and videos and.
Oh, now they give it to you now. When I get home, I have, after the game, it's already on my thing, so I could look at the game. I mean,
we take that for granted. I remember back when I played, very little footage, if any, of me. Maybe I played soccer in D1, so there's a little bit of footage, but we didn't have.
Yeah,
that.
not nearly.
And with these kids today,
It's a learning tool
I
for them
wish I could
too.
watch myself as a 3-sport high school athlete, but it's the way it is.
Yeah. And by the way, today we're shooting on Apple iPhones, and
There you go.
the clarity of these Apple iPhones
Right.
is unbelievable.
I know.
And Tony and I have worked with some other equipment, and really, there's nothing out there that I would say that is better than what we're doing today. The quality we're getting, and we're getting it instantaneously.
And
So
I want to shout out on the production because Apple gets behind these kind of productions. Apple, the iPhones in particular. I have several high-end film cameras. I'm choosing the iPhone not because it's in my pocket. It's because it's truly one of the best cameras.
Yep.
For
I can
video
understand
right
that.
now. I have a Canon 5D, I have an Ari, I have things that we could do this interview with, which are considered pro level stuff. But what's coming out of these phones, so this is a really special thing because you can capture things spontaneously that normally you'd need some big pro camera
sure.
to grab. So this is my go-to rig right now, 2 Apple iPhones. So everybody out there, you have a film studio in your pocket, really.
So we're talking about starting out splicing film. Then you go to the VCR tapes. Then you go to the CDs, which the discs, DVDs. Which when I was at Bellport, I mean, I just saw a whole box of them in the coach's office, which we have some footage of the office, by the way, and it's truly an amazing, iconic spot in a high school. But now, like I said, now you could come here and rewatch the game right after it's over and start taking those notes and doing all the things. And in fact, I watched on Huddle where the coaches can put the notes in. They can send out just a piece of the film to each player that they need to see. So that, sitting for 2 or 3 hours with the team, watching an entire film, trying to talk to the offense, trying to talk to the defense, trying to talk to special teams, all in one meeting, which I'm sure that's where you were at one point. Now, I mean, the educating and teaching that you can do, which again, we're talking about coaching, and this is something that not everybody in the audience will ever understand. The teaching that you can do for an individual with the technology today can be almost immediate. Talk a little bit about that preparation. So we talked a little about the recruiting. The recruiting usually goes on in the fall, where our seniors or our juniors, depending on the timeline and NCAA rules, can start the recruiting process. And you're getting their highlights and getting all that. Now that's over. And it usually is not over because there'll be drips and drags throughout the spring. But when does next year's season start?
Well, like you said, the kids start their preparation usually after the holidays. So they'll start in January where they'll come in and start weightlifting and stuff. They do get off probably about a month if you go all the way. And that's during the holidays, so it's sort of a good time. That's my second favorite part of my life is Christmas, besides football. Right? So it's a good bang with me. But the recruiting, like I said, that really comes from the head coach. He has to get all these things together. So you're sort of moving through that area. Then the kids start coming in January. And I'm sure it's different for other sports, but they're probably doing the same thing. At least the good kids are. They have to get prepared. There are a lot of parents in some of our teams that we play that hire people to train their kids. I like it because if you do the team, you're building the family, But I know there are certain districts that hire nutrition people and physical people to train their sons and daughters. So I mean, if you don't do those things now, you're behind the 8 ball. So it's really a whole year thing. I mean, you got to be involved with it the whole time. I'm only a fan now, and I'm involved with it the whole time. So I mean, the kid.
How do you handle it? There's a lot of feuds between football coaches and kids that play other sports, and those coaches, and over at Floyd, the rest of the programs don't meld. I mean, what your feelings on 3-sport kids and obviously want to encourage them to play all the different sports, but I know that football is a year-round thing sometimes, and how do you juggle the other sports with that?
Well, I think when I first took over, obviously we started weight training for the kids, and there were a lot of coaches who felt that they didn't want weight training. I went to the University of Virginia, and their girls basketball team, would practice and then lift weights, either before or after, depending on what the coach wanted to do, lifted weights. That was a long time ago. You're talking about I guess I got out of college, 71, so 71, 70, right around there. And they had pretty good teams then, both girls and guys.
And they already had a strength program with the girls' basketball team.
So, right there I knew that, I was saying, why would they say that, the coaches? And then I just thought, well, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. They're not used to seeing something like that, how it can be beneficial. So maybe that's the reason. Now I think all sports do some type of, conditioning for their kids and stretching or whatever it is. So that there is a gimme for all sports. So there's no reason why a kid can't play 3 sports. It's just that you got to make the weight room open maybe after practice at 5 o'clock, okay, or maybe directly after school. Or some schools they have their football team scheduled for a period during the school day that come in and just weightlift for football. Down south they have them in all schools, but up here there are definitely schools. Some of them are competitors too, by the way. So I mean, it's not a bad idea to do that because everybody else is going to get the jump on you if you don't. So if you have the kids who play a sport, they can go during a school day and get the same amount of exercise and build up for their sport after that,
Right. You're not possessive of your football players like there are coaches out there that are pretty possessive.
If they're going to play a sport that they're going to play after ours, and they want them to be involved with their sport all summer, we're the ones that are playing in September. So I used to say to the kids, listen, I have no problem you doing that, but you know what? Have them schedule the games and stuff a little bit different time than we were doing our weight training.
Right.
I mean, see if they could work a little bit with you because, we're playing in September. In fact, we're playing in August.
Listen,
they're not playing to May.
And that's a more current day situation than back in the day. I graduated in '80, like you, a little after that. You really didn't play. I mean, I played a little soccer in the summer, but it wasn't. Each sport had its season, and now you have to compete with year-round sports.
Yeah.
It's more challenging as a coach to keep guys focused
and
training.
that is a challenge. But I think what I've seen in my career is, unfortunately, number one, there's just not that many 3-sport athletes anymore because the travel programs and all this other stuff has convinced parents that they need to tunnel all their energy into one sport. And it's just not true. It's just not true. And, you take last year's quarterback for Belport is on a lacrosse scholarship at Albany right now because he was that good of an athlete. As long as he did what he needed to prepare for football, which was he's got to be in the weight room. He's got to prepare as the quarterback. He's preparing in the spring, even during lacrosse season, a little bit with the coaches on what the program's got to be because he's the field general. And as long as he could balance all that out, we had a great football season, right? We won a Suffolk County championship. And I say we, my former program, but all we, right? Program forever. But we did that, and he still is fine in lacrosse, doing a great job. Most of his football coaches came to watch him play in the spring if they weren't part of the coaching staff, So it can be done, and it can be done the right way. And I think everybody has to just understand there's a big commitment on every end. And by the way, the stakes have changed. Name, image, and likeness. I don't know if you have an opinion on that right now, but name, image, and likeness is now the fact that college kids can get paid. Yeah. And not only that, Coach, there's high school kids that are getting paid, getting letters already saying you're going to get $1 million. In fact, I watched on, I think it was on ESPN Game Day, they were talking about the Texas quarterback who they said he's already a millionaire. He's already a millionaire. Do I take the risk of becoming a pro? Do I want to be a pro? I don't know. If I can make $10 million while I'm in college and never take a hit again, I don't know. Maybe I'll just get paid to go here. Any thoughts on that? And this probably won't make the interview.
I like the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I said before, you got to play for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, games, and you know, football and wrestling. I think that they dovetail each other, especially the heavyweights.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of good for both, you know. But I think that if I had my kids playing any sport, it's not a bad thing, because you know, they may think that they come and lift for you know, an hour, they get everything. They don't get everything. You know, there's some things you can get by playing other sports that can help you become a better athlete for football or any other sport, and your own sport.
Sure.
Plus winning and losing, playing game days, learning how to win, how to lose. You know, you don't want to learn how to lose, but you learn the things that you know, if you continue to do what you've done, you continue to get what you've always gotten. You know, and that goes for academics as well as athletics. So, you know, it's you see what things you have to work on. I mean, it's.
I think, if I recall, we had a lineman that was being recruited by Syracuse, and the head coach from Syracuse came in to the athletic office, and he said to that lineman, "I want you to play basketball." He wasn't going to play as a senior, and the head coach from Syracuse said, "Oh no, I want you to play basketball."
Yeah, and I said the same thing. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you know, he's just going to get heavier, you know, by not running different things. You know, he's going to think he's running hard, but he's not. We can tell lifting. You can't tell running, you know, especially for a big guy. So, yeah, I think that they do the same thing with lacrosse. I've had the head lacrosse coach from Virginia, my alma mater, when he was recruiting a kid from another school that we were playing against. He was there at this game. It was at Bellport, but he was a you know, a school from the North Shore that was playing against us, and he got to talk to me. Somehow he knew that I was an alumnus there, and he was talking. He goes, "I want my kids who I'm going to scholarship to play football, because it's going to make them tougher in lacrosse." So, I mean, he told me that. So, I mean, and I think he's still there. It's the same guy, because he certainly had a lot of successful seasons. So.
Virginia? Yeah, a couple national championships. So, football's been you forever. Has there ever been a point where you said, you know what, enough with football? Or have there ever been times in your life where you either wanted to step away or you needed some other motivation to keep going?
Well, again, you got to remember, the whole thing is that it's a family. Do you get sick of your family?
Maybe
you get sick of your wife? All right, okay, but the reality is, you know, you get sick of Christmas, all right? No, because, you know, it happens once a year. So in football, there's a build-up, you know, even though you might be going all year. I'm not anymore as a coach because I'm only a fan, but, you know, it's that seasonal thing that gets you. You know, you came pulling up here and you already see them sneaking up things for Halloween. I like that seasonal thing that, you know, when it comes, you know, that colder weather, it's football weather, smelling the grass. So if I was sick of it, I think that got me excited when I was younger. I never thought that it was a job. I never did.
So something that stuck with me sort of a little bit, or something I always thought about, the good coaches, the coaches that made it work with their family, with their passion. If it was up to me, you know, after every football game, I'd want to be at your house. I could stay here till 3 a.m. Then I'd love to get up Sunday and exchange film and do it again. I don't think in my personal life would have worked if I did that. Talk to me a little bit about how, because when you do this, it's just like you said, it's all in 24/7. It is what it is if you're going to be good at it. There's another person named Laura, who's your wife, who you dated in high school, who you went to college with, who's been there by your side through this whole process. Does that work if it's not Laura? Does this happen if it's not that person by your side?
I can say probably not. You know, she's a special person to me. She's my friend. The older you get, the more you appreciate your wife. You know, I've been very fortunate. You know, she's been very behind me in just about everything. Like I said, I went to high school with her. I went to college, and she followed me to college. She was a year younger than me, and she was very, very high academic. She could take an academic scholarship to any place, and she decided to go to Northeastern. Broke up right after that, but and then we got together and we ended up getting married and having our family. But you know, a lot of traveling around, going to Virginia together. You know, it was we had Joe, my first son, a Basset Hound, and a Volkswagen Beetle, and we were never probably more south than New Jersey. And I got a graduate assistantship to the University of Virginia, and we packed the car up, and there we went. You know, and a lot of people wouldn't do that and follow me through the different things. And I had a big decision because they were going to hire me and keep me at Virginia, and I liked it there. It was really nice, but I was a homeboy, so I wanted to come back. She always says, "Why didn't we just stay in Virginia?" You know, but she still followed me here. But you know, it was a different way of life down there too, and it was something that she really liked. So I was fortunate, and I was fortunate that she did take the steps to stay with me.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if there's got to be a lot of football coaches out there that had to make a decision. It was going to be football or my family, because the wife just wasn't going to do that. And you know, it's just awesome that you were all in. Laura was all in, whether it was for football or for you, and it became the family way. It's what the Cipps are known for, and it's truly a special thing. Let me mention something else, which a lot of people maybe wouldn't know or mention. When I was reading the book, it talked about the Basset Hound. It mentioned the Basset Hound. Why would that be in the book? Why would it be something that you would mention? Belport they're the Clippers, but yet they're the junkyard dogs, and they have a dog on the sideline, and just something that most people wouldn't know about Joe Cipp, but dogs are sort of important. That Basset Hound, when I said that saw that in the book, and I said, geez, that's back then. And we'll get to the point where you tell me a little bit about how a dog saved your life. But have you always had dogs? Has this always been a thing?
Yeah, and the one who saved our lives, which if you're going to ask me about it later, when we had the fire in the house, was one of my best friends too. I mean, and, you know, and that's the reason why we don't have another dog. I was fortunate enough to have dogs that lasted a long time, 10 years, 13 years, 14 years, and after this last one, I said, I don't know if I can go through this again, you know, because it's not like losing one in your family. It is losing one in your family, you know. It's not like, and you know why? Because you could walk in after a bad day and they like to see you.
They still love you, right?
Yeah. The last one, we always named him Gunner for the gunner going down, touchdown, and they always had different names that sort of related to football. And the last one we had, the chocolate lab, he was getting old, and when I would come home, he would wag his tail so hard he'd fall down, and he'd get back up again, and you know. So I mean, where do you get that enthusiasm and love?
Unconditional love and passion, right there.
But the junkyard dogs were basically, you couldn't really dress a person up as a ship. You know, what were you going to do? Have a mascot dressed up as a ship? There was no downer for that. We just tried to get something, and we named this the Junkyard Dogs, and it caught on. And you know, a lot of the people have actually copied it and have the dog emblem, you know, and even in our own school, and the bee that has been copied by just about every sports team. In fact, you know, the baseball coach Bill Batewell, God rest his soul, great guy. He was actually at Sachem when I was there, and he comes and asks me, can I change the bee on our hats to like the people you have in football. Pretty nice that he would ask, you know. But that's the way he was. But I mean, you know, a lot of people have had that, and you know, in Junkyard Dogs, we used to have a dog get dressed up, but I think the thing got eaten by moths or something. They don't do it anymore.
I think it gets lost in a closet somewhere.
What, you know, we walk in here and it's a shrine where things covered with football stuff, but if we could take that one little strip of wall right there, put football aside, I know you loved your dog and stuff, but what, is there another passion, something that you get away once a year and do or something? I don't see any stuffed trout or
there was.
bass or anything. You know, what?
I was a hunter safety instructor. I'm a guide. I'm a licensed guide for hunting and fishing. I thought that was going to be my second coming, but the reality is, and we own a house upstate. We own 120 acres. It was my father's house, and we inherited it. It's hard to get up there. You know what? I like my home. I like Long Island. You know, it's nice going up there. You know, my son loves it and his family loves it, so it's still serving a purpose. But you know, we don't get up there that much anymore. I mean, my wife's an upstate girl, so she loves it up there. But we just don't get up there that often anymore. We'll get up there before Christmas.
Real football purist.
Yeah, I really like football. Like I said, I never thought it was a job.
Right.
I mean, I volunteered as a coach. I got paid as a coach. I shared my salary with my coaches as a coach. You know, it just was something that I liked. I mean, I feel very strongly about the game.
I was going to ask Coach, but I'll sort of answer the question myself. When I came to Bellport, Joe was a superintendent, and he had already been the athletic director, a dean of students, the head football coach, a physical education teacher. He had done it all. And the field was named after him. There was some other things that I saw that were all about Joe and the program, and it was something I had never seen before. And when I went up to my first practice and I watched the players horseshoe up, and Coach gave them a few words of advice and wisdom, and they said, "Yes, Coach, yes, Coach, yes, Coach." And I saw a bond between Black, white, and Hispanic students that I had never seen before. It was a brotherhood. And there was something that was put together that was so special that for someone like me, who's been around sports since I was probably 4 or 5 years old and had never seen anything to that level, it just knocked my block off. It was the most exciting thing that I had ever seen. And then I read Chris's book. I lived the culture for 12 years, and to this day, I've still never seen anything as special. And what it has done for young men and even women in this community is beyond believable.
Well, it sounds like you didn't just inspire student athletes, you inspired your faculty members, your peers, and certainly Coach Mack when he saw the program. So it extends far out.
Yeah, there's so many things, and this interview, who knows how long it will be on air. There are so many things that I could talk with Coach about, and when we end, I'm going to ask him, and maybe he can prepare for it, but what his legacy, what he thinks his legacy should be in his lifetime, because it's just an interesting thought. But the dog pile, again, people on the other side of this don't know what that means. Coach might talk about that. I thought it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen. I was lucky enough to be around for a championship season, and there were things that happened. You could only have steak and eggs at breakfast if you did this. You can only get this if you win homecoming. You only get this if that. You only get this if that. There are goals set within the program that each and every one can achieve. And the parents have a book that they follow of the traditions and what cookies you make for this game, what brownies you make for that game, what breakfast you make for this game. And then one of the most amazing things was we had a committee of people get together and said, okay, the boys made it to Stony Brook. Well, what does that mean? Oh, go in the book. That means we're going to put paw prints leaving the school to Nichols Road down Nichols Road to the entrance that our boys are going to know all the way there. We're thinking about them. People came out because they care about you. Then we're going to hang signs over the overpasses. So when the bus goes under, the boys see it and say, they care about us. They're here for us. I mean, it's so much bigger than just, we want to go play football.
Well, then, you know, that from an outsider looking in from other programs, not the Bellport, other than my friend, my buddy Gil Hoppin, who was, but I was never on in the inside and listening to this interview. It sounds like a preparation for life to have this regimen and this sort of like discipline and all these kind of things. You're preparing these young adults to use these tools as you move into your professional careers and your personal careers, right? I mean, that's...
I think many football coaches, you know, their classroom is the football field, but it's all the other things that go into it. You know, like the things that you saw, you know, they're not things that they sort of evolved, but, you know, like the parents making the book, you know, we've had some great parents, you know, the Moots have been great parents, but before that we had other people too, and they keep track even without the kids being involved. You know, hey, wait a minute, let's make sure that you got this going now, because now this is a special day or a special breakfast. Just recently, we had a person who's on the coaching staff for the first time on the lower level, came up to me and just said, I never saw a breakfast like that. Now, he's also a kid that, you know, has been around sports all his life.
I saw it the other day.
Okay.
You know, I made people get in those walls, and I had the privilege of seeing it, and I've been about, he'll tell you, I've been around a lot of levels of sports all the way through, so yeah, continue.
But I think that it wasn't, the breakfast isn't there to have that, but because of the way it is there, it's a wow factor for people. And, you know, I would hope it's the same for the kids. You know, I mean, they probably don't like to get up earlier and have to hang around the school, because we don't let them go home. You know, I remember having an opponent that we played, and they decided they were going to have a breakfast, and the kids, when they went home, they probably horsing around, and they got in an automobile accident, and the best player got hurt, and he couldn't play in the game. So I always didn't let them go home, but that sort of said to me, that's why we don't let them go home. You know, we don't want them getting involved in something that they really shouldn't be involved in. Sit around, lay up in the wrestling gym on the mats or something, and just hang out. So you take your time, getting taped and everything. And once again, it's the bonding. It's the family atmosphere. It's football time. You're playing a game. You know.
Well, I was
you know,
touched by, I never saw big, strong, some very big guys holding hands, which was a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Was touched immediately by that when I was walking up, filming some of the stuff. And then when you're saying, you know, sure they didn't want to get up early and all that stuff, but when the breakfast was done and they were exiting, I was a little fly on the wall with the camera and watching them exit that cafeteria and turn, and those kids had smiles ear to ear and pumped, and you know what I mean. So that's stuff. Yeah, they got to do that and stuff in front of the coaches, but I was able to sneak behind and see that it was sincere. It wasn't like just this is what I got to do so I can start, you know, excited.
Yet we opened the game like we were half asleep. So.
Well, you know, you can't. But it's sports.
Right. Yeah, it's sports. Those 4 years, you know, I think they'll take it for granted when it happens, and when it's over, that's the wow factor.
Well, that's why I think the kids are still so much involved, the alumni. I mean, I've had thousands of kids now, so because I'm so old, say that the best 4 years of their life was playing football, or best 3 years, or best 2 years, or best 1 year of their life was playing football at Bellport High School. And then a lot of them were captains in college, major colleges. And they just said, it was good, but not like Bellport football. And I said, that's because you hung around with your friends for 12 years. You know, you only do it in college for maybe 3 or 4, you know. And they go, no, it's the whole thing, coach. You know, they care. I mean, we used to have the kids write a document. The parents had to sign. They could not. I know it sounds stupid, but you know that they couldn't drink, they couldn't smoke, they couldn't stay out late. I mean, they couldn't. You know, that they would be citizens, good citizens. And I had parents say, I'm not signing this. I go, well, that's good. Well, he's not playing then. I'm sorry. because, I want you to know what he's going to be getting if something goes wrong. I don't know if they can even do that now legally, but I was told I could do it legally. And I did do it legally because, it was a document that we wanted these kids. And I had a supported board that would said, well, if they don't want to play football with those rules for Cipp, then don't have them play. I don't see anything wrong with it. By the way, your kid has to be 21 to drink. So what do you sign to think that you can't drink?
How many teams are you aware of that have a song about them that they come out to the field to?
None. In a rap song. Not into rap.
None.
It was one of Jeff's friends. His brother played for us. He didn't, but he could have been a good football player, Jason McGowan. And he's been published with different things that he's done. He's a very good coach in East Islip. He's a softball coach. His father was a great coach too at Bayshore. And he wrote this thing and I go, it's really nice things you're saying, but it's their rap, I don't know if the kids are like it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I like Frank Sinatra, so I mean, so.
Again, I came here in 2010, and it's been a tradition. They come up the hill, that song comes on, they know it's game time.
And if you listen to the lyrics of it, it's really good because it's general. It's not because when I was coaching, I mean, they just make reference to the coach. We got a new coach now. He's doing the same thing. So I mean, it's not just for one team. It was for the program, and he did a great job. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay. And I've had many opponents' kids say that to me. I've had opponents' kids tell us, playing the way you come up through the two schools, the two ends of the school, you're coming up to the hill and stuff. And these were good players, and they just said, it's just intimidating to come here, And I go, I don't know about that. We're in an intimidating division. I mean, we got some really good players and really good teams in it, and it'll be a chore to win every game, but that's the goal, one game at a time.
You have, I don't. Coach Mack knows you, way better than me. So I apologize for jumping in once in a while, but it's just. And you're a humble guy. You probably won't answer the question, but is there one regret, whether it be like one call, one game, one something, that's still like Dan Gable, the one loss in wrestling? Like, do you know what I mean? Come on, share it with us. Or three, or whatever.
I remember the losses more than I remember the wins, and that's a fact.
100%.
I think they hurt more. And they draw attention to it. And that's sometimes, as being an observer now and seeing it, I'm thinking, the bad things that might happen. I'm trying to change my way of thinking that now. I got to change my way of that. I'm just watching the game and just enjoy the game. I don't really say too much to the coaches because I'm out there every day. I try to get up there at least a couple times, maybe a week. But, I'm going to be there at games and stuff, but I'm not going to say things. They know their kids a lot better than I know them. But, I might say something to the coach, like if you let the guy stand back there all day, he's going to pick us apart. Like he didn't know that. But
is that one clipping under your box spring crumbled up that once in a while you take out and you go, shoot.
Is there something that haunts you? I know I have a few things that haunt me in my career.
Have one, Coach.
Well, we lost a couple of Long Island championships, and in bizarre fashion. I mean, by a point or a half a point, I think sometimes. It's we didn't kick the ball well. We ran the ball well, so we were able to get 2-point conversions. And there were many times that we lost, but if you ever even them out, like 2 for 1, we were way ahead of the ball game. But we never kicked, but then I decided we start kicking a little bit more, and we lost a lot of games. And I used to call that thing, instead of Bermuda triangle, a Bermuda rectangle, the goalpost for Bellport football. So that it was always nice to finally get kickers that could kick, but we weren't very successful with that. So
Mac, what it sounds like to me when you ask a coach of this longevity and stuff, and really can't come up with regret or something, that sounds like a successful career.
Yeah,
to me.
I mean, and we've talked about he's very humble, very super humble. I don't know if I said it before. I don't think I did. I was gonna say it. Do you remember when so he was a superintendent when I got there. He was also the head football coach. So I said to him, what should I call you? Should I call you superintendent, Mr. Cipp, Coach Cipp? Do you remember what you answered?
Coach?
He said, you can call me coach. I think I've earned it. Now, there's the high school football coach and there's the superintendent, you know, when it comes to pecking order in school districts.
Yeah.
And that's where his heart and soul is. That's where he's made the most difference in his life and in kids' lives. And it truly mattered to me. And the humble side of Coach Cipp, our first scrimmage was against William Floyd. And there's sort of a good relationship there with successful coaches. And I had been up to some practices and whatnot. It was like my first or second week. And I was very intimidated by Coach Cipp. He asked me during my interview if it was the last question on the interview for athletic director. If you were coaching a team, would you let your quarterback call his own plays? Now I'm thinking, here's the winningest coach in Suffolk County history. He's got all these championships. And I coached a little bit of football, but I'm not sure where the rub is. What's the curveball here? So I said, well, me personally, I wouldn't, but I'm not you. I don't have your resume. And he said, that's the right answer. I was like, all right, fair enough. But we were over at Floyd for a scrimmage. And after the game, his son, Jeff, approached me the minute I got there and at practice. And I sort of stood back from Coach, a little bit in awe of him. And they had the scrimmage at Floyd, and I sat in the stands. I wasn't comfortable in my own shoes yet, going on the sideline. I just felt like I wasn't there yet. I didn't have that place. And after the game, I went over by the fence, and I saw Coach, and he was talking to Coach Longo and different people. And Jeff came over and said hello, and I talked to him for a minute. And then I sort of made the Irish exit out the door, you know. And I saw him Monday morning, and he came over and he goes, how come you didn't come on the field and say hello to me? I was like, wow. I'll never not do that again. And it was more in an endearing, humbling way. Yeah, right. Like, you're here with me now, but, you know, come say hi. And I think after that, we spent probably a few years together in almost every practice, you know. And I learned a lot about the man behind the legend. And it's a great place to be.
On that legend thing, this is going to be an interesting parallel. Being a coach, you don't know much about me, but I was a high school coach, and then I sold a script in Hollywood, and I've worked in Hollywood for 24 years around large celebrities, and now coming back to my roots, I never would have been happy the last 5 years. My kids are wrestling for Miller Place, blah, blah, blah. But why I bring that up is, you know, I was around a lot of large Tom Cruise type, J.J. Spielberg kind of thing, right? These people have a bunch of people that laugh at every one of their jokes. You're the Spielberg or a Tom Cruise of high school football. Who do you, like, so you're going to have a lot of people who, like us, we're at all these accolades and you're so great and all this kind of stuff. Who do you go to? Who was someone you were able to go to that you wanted to tell you, not your coach, Joe, you blew that one, or Joe, who did you look to keep you grounded from all the fluff and the pomp and circumstance of being Joe Cipp? You get what I'm saying? Who was the person you wanted to say, no, that was a bad decision. No, your socks don't match. You know what I mean? That kind of shit.
Well, the only person that I really would say was the best person for me to sort of idolize is Jesus Christ. Okay. There have been people who've really helped me. I've had, like I said, Ed Madden, coach, John DeLuca, another person. They were my mentors. I couldn't have had better mentors. My father, my mother, I mean, obviously my wife, being with me all the time. But I don't need anybody to criticize me because I am the biggest critic of myself. Okay, if something goes wrong, I felt it's on me, and I have that. I actually see it sometimes in my kids, and I go, well, that's not good. It's almost like a disease that you're always thinking, what you could have done better, even in life. Yeah, and you're thinking, oh, did I do this the right way? What a jerk. I probably curse at myself more than I curse at anybody, saying, why'd you do that? So I don't really need people to criticize me, because I get enough criticism from myself. I always felt that maybe a better football coach, that it's not a better person, because I think it wears you down.
Is it tough to handle though? Sometimes all of the, everyone laughs at your jokes and everyone, like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
I don't really look at people that I don't really.
So you don't keep people like that around?
As I got older, I talk more. I mean, I probably for the first 55 years of my life, the only thing I did was grunt. I mean, I talk a lot more. I think as you get older, you open up a little bit more. But you would have a hard time getting 3 words out of me in something like this.
Well, now, so tell me a little bit about that. Now you do some public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Where do you do that?
Well, I've done it in different places. I've done it actually at Stony Brook one time. I've done it in a business. A couple of people own businesses. They just want me to relate how a business can sort of get jump started by the enthusiasm that people have for sports and that type of stuff. So yeah, I've done it, and I think I did a good job. But then again, I'm my worst critic. So I always say, but you didn't mention that. They have like summer camp in Stony Brook, and I did it probably for decades for the real smart kids. That's what they have them come. I mean, these guys are really smart high school kids. It's like football camp only for the smart kids. And he always used to have me come and just talk about football. And I said, well, I got to relate it to them. So I always would put it, well, this is how this works for football, but this is how you want to be the best that you can be. And it has to work, like that. Continue to do what you've always done. You always got them. You guys probably get A's, but if you really want an A+, you're going to have to push the cart a little bit faster, which is probably your desire. So I could be able to make those analogies, to those kids too. But yeah, I mean, I getting old now, so I think that's, if I lose my train of thought, which happens when you're older, it's not good.
Well, you had no problem talking for an hour and a half.
Well, football is football,
Yeah.
And I got good company, good questions, people who understand what they're trying to bring out of me, so it makes it a little bit easier.
How about your academics? That was something that I read in the book, but even knowing, Connor, Joe's kids, and Joe and his Sue, again, people stereotype, so they wouldn't expect, the football guy, he's got this high academic family. But in reading in the book, like, you come from a high academic family. Your dad was a pretty smart guy, running some things over at Grumman, and everybody is part of a big college program. Your grandchildren, they were involved with sports, but they were also involved in the arts. They went to some pretty high-end colleges. Tell me a little bit about where academics played that role in their lives, and maybe people don't really know that.
Well, I'll answer one thing came up to me. Like, my father was a Grumman guy. My grandfather started with Leroy Grumman. His badge number was I think 10. His name is stamped into the engine of the Spirit of St. Louis. Yeah, I have mostly all of my family not only were high-end people academically, especially when they go into college, but they also married people who were high academic people. One was a valedictorian. One of my daughters, I don't call them daughter-in-laws, I call them my daughters. And, they've all done real well. My wife, I told you, had got an academic scholarship. So, yeah, we care about academics, and a lot of my families are educators. They became educators. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a grandson that went to Carnegie Mellon. Try getting into that school, and he's one of the few kids that actually got a scholarship to go there. So I mean, it's good stuff, And I just saw in the paper today they said about Stony Brook finishing in the 100th, and they said in the top 5, and it's Carnegie Mellon. Oh, yeah. Carnegie Mellon, and a small school like that, it's crazy.
Great school.
So I mean, I didn't even know the school existed until he went there. But I mean, it's the other one went to Binghamton. I mean, Cornell, Ivy League, Cortland, great school. Ithaca. I mean, they one after another they went and they were successful, and they were successful on their own. Not because of the Cipp name. If anything, it might have worked against them. And they were. I have my two sons that were teachers or still are teachers at Longwood, and they were football coaches there. They both won Long Island championships as head coaches there, and both of them are in Longwood's Hall of Fame. Wow. How is that?
Wow.
I mean, this is not a kid that, came up through the school or something. They went to a different school and got into the Hall of Fame. So all that comes from, that's not from being a coach, that's from being a person too. I mean, all the networks that go out in your academic, areas.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it concerned. I mean, but as far as, I already see my great-grandchildren. One is like a studier. He's always like, he lines up things perfectly, just like Joe did. He used to have army men. He lines up dinosaurs. He's 3 years old, for God's sakes. I could see he has this intensity already, So he probably might have the disease. But yes, academics is very, very important in our school, and they're important for me, for the kids. They can't go anywhere, if they don't keep their academics up. And some of them cheated themselves. No matter how much I pushed them, they just, couldn't get it done.
What if this interview is at 11, and I had to be here on time? What time do I need to be here?
Oh, you were here in time.
Okay.
Maybe 15 minutes ahead of time.
Just checking.
I was taking out the garbage when you came.
Just making sure, because I know the Cipp way, and again, the Cipp way is the right way. Pay attention to every detail. Do your homework ahead of time. Make sure you have your ducks in a row. Don't just check, double and triple check, and make sure everything's right. And you taught me that when I came in the door. And if that's the lesson, if that's the only thing that your players took away from you, it'd be amazing. Yeah. It'd be enough to be successful.
Just don't be a jerk, to a teacher. I mean, really. I mean, that's what I always say. You're going to act like a tough guy to a teacher. Why would you do that? It would be confusing to me that he's a person or she's a person that's going to help you. Take advantage of the help. Don't alienate somebody because it's cool. You got to remember that they still have that too. They think it's cool, But
at the end of the day, what do you want your legacy to be? Like when people say Joe Cipp, what should follow that? Like if it was a perfect world, if you could say, as Bob McIntyre, I might lay in bed at night and say, if I was to pass tomorrow, what are people going to say about me? Or what would I like them to say about me? Hopefully they say this. Where would it be for Joe Cipp?
He's a good guy. He helped me some way. I hope they can say I helped somebody, in their thing, and that I cared, because I do care. It's even our country, I have to train myself now not to get so aggravated, because where's the love? Why is it always this group against that group? I mean, does it really have to be that way? And it seems to be even getting stronger that way, and that's sick. I'm sorry. I mean, if we ever do get to a war or something, we have to have people who defend our country and not walk the other way. And I don't know right now with the division that we have that we can even get that. I don't know. But as far as just saying, hey, you know what? He helped me out.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.